Welcome to the Property Founder Podcast, where we sit down to have conversations with property entrepreneurs to uncover lessons from their story to help guide you in your business journey.
And I always say to people, like, you can be the hardest worker in the room, but unless you're in the right room, it's not going to matter. And I think it's changed. Before, it used to be the hardest workers got paid the most, I think, at a certain point. And now it becomes the people that understand money are probably the people that are going to reap the most reward. If we can learn how to make money in that, then we're gone clear. But obviously, that being said, it's not as easy as it sounds. All that 6 months that I spent in the office learning about it, I could have learned in 2 hours on a YouTube video. I always say that you can't catch up to someone that never stops. We actually just hit a GDP of 3 million, which is massive, to be honest, because at the start of January last year it was 400,000. A lot of people find it very easy to lie and sugarcoat things. So for me, when I kind of realized the impact that I had at such an early stage in the documenting journey, I just really didn't want to be one of them.
Welcome to the Property Founder Podcast. Thanks for coming onto the show, Aqeel.
Thanks for having me, both of you.
The Property Founder Podcast, I guess, is where we interview real entrepreneurs, real people in the property space, kind of doing their thing, building businesses. So a pleasure to have you on. But yeah, probably want to introduce yourself. So who are you for all the viewers?
Yeah, so I'm Aqeel Khan. I'm from Huddersfield. And for everyone that doesn't know, I'm on social media and I started documenting my journey earlier this year. I started off just kind of come out of college, went into accountancy, and then fast forward from there, ended up in property. And obviously I'll get into the story in more detail, but then ended up getting into property, investing, now obviously developing, and now obviously trying to scale a few businesses to really hit that next level in my professional career. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of where we're at so far.
Cool, man. So we met each other, I think it was earlier this year, early 2025.
Yeah.
Saw you on a viewing.
Yeah.
And yeah, since then, I've just been seeing the content, you going ham on the content.
Yeah.
And pumping it out. So it's amazing to see what you've achieved in such a short space of time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, so yeah, what was kind of apparent to me was people that were not only making money and starting to kind of find their feet in terms of their new business or the new venture or the new property opportunities that were coming, was they were documenting. So for me, it was kind of like, right, I'm not just going to start and try and really scale, but I'm also going to document, show the wins, show the losses, and really be transparent. And I felt like I never really saw a lot of authentic property investors or business people, or maybe they were there, but I just didn't see them or couldn't find them. So with that being said, I wanted to kind of really be raw and just kind of see how it went. And then when you're held accountable, and since then, obviously being accountable has now led me to obviously where I am now. So yeah, that's where it started.
Cool. Yeah, that's sick. Guess from my side, I've seen some of the things that you've been doing online. Obviously spoke to Ross. You also know our other friend Solomon as well.
Yeah.
And just seeing your profile online, seeing what you've managed to do over the last, I think it's the last few years, right? Like going from 0 to 3 million in property, raising over 1.4 million.
Yeah.
Like these are like big milestones at your age. And how old are you?
26.
So 26, man. So it's obviously a great achievement so far. So you said property in a certain way that me and Ross don't say it. You said property. So talk to us about your background. Like, where are you from? Where did you grow up? What was like childhood like?
Yeah, so Huddersfield's where I'm from. It's a town, Yorkshire, West Yorkshire. And I started the normal traditional route, as in, high school. Then I started in college, and I thought, well, there was a few moments in college where I wanted to do different things. I actually mentioned recently that I was maybe wanting to go into like the army, wanted to maybe be a pilot, maybe wanted to do something in business. So from high school, which was like traditional route for us, I suppose, obviously went from wanting to go to a college, which I actually did. It was actually mad because I actually enrolled into a college, but then was also in my sixth form.
Okay.
So I was actually in two places at once. So one had started a week before the second. So for example, let's say the college was started on the 1st of September, whereas my sixth form started on like the 10th of September. So what I did was I actually enrolled in both. So I've always been a bit of a person that kind of like tries to hustle the system. Like I'm going to do it my way. Do you know what I mean? Like, so from obviously high school, I then ended up going to one college and said, you know what, I've had a bit of a week here. Don't really like it. I'm going to stick to my sixth form. And then obviously that's where I then took up science, sport, and I think it was maths and psychology as well. I think it was. So ended up going there to kind of keep everything quite broad because I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was kind of like, let me keep my options open and then take it from there. But yeah, from a very middle class family, mum and dad, very hardworking. And And yeah, I've got 2 older sisters and a younger brother. They're all accountants, apart from one of my sisters. She's a financial advisor. So yeah, from a
Interesting.
finance background,
Yeah,
really.
for sure.
And yeah, just always knew that there was going to be a little bit more. I know it's a bit of a cliche thing to say, but I think I've always had that thing of like suffer or have some sort of discipline and get an outcome or a reward. So back in the day, before there was a party, my friends would be getting lit, pre-drinks. They used to call them prinks,
Yeah.
which
Prinks?
is
I've
pre-entry.
never heard of
Yeah,
that.
I've never heard
yeah,
of
I'm
that.
telling you. So obviously it was like that type of vibe. And then what I'd do is I'd get a friend over, go to like, I don't know, my house or his house, and then do like a pad session or a boxing session. So then at the end of that, I felt like, now we can go to that party, or now we can kind of step out. Maybe it was just like kind of staying ready. But then at the same time, it was always having that discipline to know that without having a bit of hard work or having some sort of discipline, you're not really going to get that outcome. I don't deserve to enjoy that party if we're not going to go hard beforehand.
Yeah, I get
So
you.
I think I've kind of always been brought up like that. And then moving forward, going into sixth form, then I realized I wasn't like everyone else in the class. I felt really lazy. I felt like I wasn't really doing enough. If I was kind of going to a class, had a 3-hour gap, and then had another class, it was like, okay, I've got 8 hours here or 7 hours, and I'm actually only doing 2-3 hours of work. And then the other hours, you're kind of like, people are popping into town, or they might be popping down to a shop and messing about outside. And it was kind of like they were playing cards, and people that we're friends with, because it was a very familiar place. So a lot of my friends from high school went to that sixth form. So it was very comfortable. But I soon found out that being comfortable was actually uncomfortable for me. And then I think that's when I decided to join the family firm, which was accountancy. And then kind of from there, take on and look at bigger opportunities like property. And that was at a real pivotal moment for the family accountancy firm, because that was actually bought at that point to kind of be ready for us to kind of put our own stamp on it. So at that point, my mum, she was taking over and going through her transition. And that's when I kind of thought, you know what, my mom needs the support. It'd be nice for me to help. I'm cheap, obviously, because I'm an apprentice. I can study at the same time. So I think then that's why I kind of transitioned, and that made it easy and ticked all the boxes for me at that time.
Got you. And you said obviously quite early on, everything was broad in the subjects that you chose. How did that start to narrow down to the point where you're like, actually, I know what I want to do now? And when did that point happen for you?
Do you know what I think it was? I don't think I ever got to a point where it's gone from 4 subjects to 2 to 1 to I know what I want to do. I don't think I really filtered it. I think what it was I knew I wasn't comfortable where I was, or maybe too comfortable that made me uncomfortable. And then I also knew that, you know what, this opportunity was coming with the family. So it kind of was a bit of it pushed me. So do you know, like if you have that fright of like jumping off a cliff, like, and they say
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to just take that leap. And I think that was a moment where I kind of wanted to take that leap, because if I didn't make a change, nothing was going to change. So I suppose it was kind of by default, really.
Oh, fair.
And then what was that like? So obviously moving on into the accountancy firm, was that kind of day to day, like every single day? What were you actually doing in there? And are you still kind of?
Yeah, it's a good question actually. Yeah, so what I was doing was I was doing 4 days in college, 4 days in work, and then 1 day in college. So it was like a full time, so it was 9 to 5. So that was a bit of a shock, because you come from obviously having that gap to maybe not wanting that gap to now not having no gap. Do you know what I mean? So with that being said, it was like midweek college. That was okay to start off with, and it started to get a little bit. It was a lot then at that point, because now you're making money. Now you're seeing businesses with accountancy. You're getting a bit of a cheat code. You're seeing, maybe 5, 6, 700 different types of industries and different types of businesses and models, and how people are performing, how some people are doing well, some people are struggling. So for me, it was like I kind of got obsessed with business. I think at that point, I really started to fall in love, I think, with like numbers and how things can kind of change. Like someone might have had a really bad first year, or they have a year that was like a loss, and then you have the second year and start to build traction. And then year 3, that's what they call the magical year. That's usually when, if you're going to have that thing, it's going to happen there. So with that being said, getting into there was a blessing in disguise. And then also I was being able to support being alongside mum and my sister at that point. And then kind of building out and trying to really go from where we were to a better position, which is business, every day is trying to get better. And then being so young and having a lot of pressure and a lot of weight. And if people were getting fired or people were leaving, it was like, you know what, mum, don't worry, I'll do it. Or they're leaving too. Okay, I'll do their job too. Bear in mind, at this point, I'm like 17 and I'm thinking, you know what, I've just got the heart of a lion. I'm just going to do it. Whatever you need, I can fix. Whatever needs to happen. Like I used to say, oh, if you've done that degree, I could do that in 24 hours if I put my mind to it. When it's a 4-year degree, it's not going to happen. But that's the type of world. Like if you don't believe in yourself like that, like genuinely, who is?
Yeah.
Because most of the time you're against all odds. So you might as well be an extra odd and just put yourself in the deep end.
Where do you think that came from though? Because you mentioned a family business, so you almost kind of born into entrepreneurship in some way. Like you were kind of
Yeah,
like around it
yeah, yeah,
without
yeah.
even knowing what it was
Yeah, for sure.
at the time. But what sort of impact do you think that's had on you?
Do you know, I think the biggest impact or the biggest thing that kind of played part in that, I think, was martial arts. My mum got me into martial arts when I was really young, and I always stuck at it. So I'm actually a black belt in kickboxing. So I did that a majority of my life. I think I stopped when I was 21,
I'm
22.
gonna show this to my nephew.
Say that again?
I'm gonna show this to my nephew because I've
Yeah,
been talking to him about doing
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So in essence, because I had that type of discipline, so obviously I always commit to the cause, which was obviously at that time kickboxing. It was kind of like I've always been trained to know that anything good comes at a cost. And I think my dad and my mum, obviously, they're very much a major role in me being able to obviously do what I do now. They're massive support. So I think they just instilled in me that it's kind of like nothing beats hard work and hard work works. So I think really subconsciously, it's always been kind of planted and like being kind of watered. The seed's been always there, been nurtured, just to kind of, I suppose, play to this bigger picture. I don't really sit and deep it myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
I never really sat back and thought, I wonder why that happened, or
Mm.
how it came. So it happened kind of fast, but it took a lot of hours to get here. But at the end of the day, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And you were also exposed to quite a lot of businesses through
Yeah.
working in the accountancy firm. I think this is a question I wanted to ask you the moment I knew that. I was like,
Same.
what did you see? Like, what were some of the like coolest businesses, or even maybe the best businesses to start in, because you had so much exposure to that with the type of clients that you were
Yeah.
dealing with?
I
Yeah.
probably want to point in there as well. Was there a trend in property that you saw that made you want to get into property as well?
I think with property, it's always been a thing of, like family friends or friends' parents or grandparents. If anyone had any type of real wealth, I'm not talking about rich, like cash flow. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like real wealth, like somebody passed away and they've left 15 houses and that's worth whatever. Do you know, whenever I saw or seen or even on films, it was always like property was always kind of gassed up to be that thing. So I think naturally, I knew that that was an endpoint for me. So most people, what do? They get educated, they get a job, they save their money, and then they buy a property. Then the property makes money, and maybe they spend it, maybe they reinvest. So for me now, with this vicious circle, if you like, work, save, buy, rent, leftover money, that's the circle. For me, I thought, okay, well, why don't we try and make money in property? Then we make the cash flow. And then from there, we've got a bit of surplus. So now the circle is a half circle, it's a semicircle now. So with that being said, if I can find a way to make money in property, I'm owning the asset or I have the asset, and now I'm making cash flow. So until it covers my living expenses, after that, where else are we going to put it? Just
Yeah.
more property. But if one day we wake up and say not one more, then at the end of the day, we've ticked all the boxes, right? Because
Yeah.
we're making cash, we're building net worth. So that's kind of what I did. I thought, you know what, if we can learn how to make money in that, then we're gone clear. But
Yeah.
obviously, that being said, it's not as easy as it sounds. That's why most people can't do it. And going back to your question, Ross, about which businesses or even you, Andrew, what businesses did well, I think every couple of years you have a shift in markets. So for example, now I see a lot of like e-commerce doing well, like really well. I see a lot of like content creation doing well. Like some of the money that I see that people make is actually unbelievable. Maybe that's subconsciously why I go hard with social media. I wouldn't say I'm at like 100%, but I'm definitely taking it serious. And I think it's changed. Before it used to be the hardest workers got paid the most,
Yeah.
I think, at a certain point. And now it becomes the people that understand money are probably the people that are going to reap the most reward. So it's definitely pivoted. But now anything online, anything like joining dots, like someone wants to know something, you're shooting content and they're having a solution, for example, or how do you make a lasagna? That type of stuff. Then they bring out a recipe book. Now off the back of that, they've got Shopify. Now they're hitting sales, revenue's increasing. So I think with that being said, it's the creativity that's really paying now. And I always say to people, like, you can be the hardest worker in the room, but unless you're in the right room, it's not going to matter. So if you're a taxi driver, and I always refer to them, bless them. Some of them do well. Some of them do. Don't get me wrong.
I get you.
But
Either.
if you're a taxi driver and you're driving a taxi, I'm not talking about owning a base. If you're driving a taxi and you work 15 hours a day and you're getting up, you're working your ass off, the chance of you getting a Lamborghini is really, really low. So you can be working harder than me. I might go and do a flip a year and make 50 grand. So I'm making the same as you. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to get a Lamborghini, but if I really turn it up, I've got a chance of having more than one Lamborghini because I'm in the right room. The ceiling's high enough for me. they're going to hit the roof pretty quick and probably stop at a Mercedes. So unless you're in the right room with the right goal, your hard work ain't really. It's not the hardest workers get paid the best now. Times have changed.
Yeah.
That answers the question.
Yeah, that's a key thing to mention. I think definitely being in the right vehicle is important and something that I've noticed. So let's talk about the foray into property then. So obviously working in the accountancy firm,
Yeah.
what was the first step actually that made you say,
Yeah.
or that you started looking into it?
Yeah. Funnily enough, it wasn't something that I was overly excited with at the start. It was kind of mum saying, Aqeel, you know, I think you're getting to that age now. It's probably that time to start looking at a house to kind of do your thing.
How old are you then?
I was 17 when we started having this conversation. That's when I started working. Yeah.
It's good to see though. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
why me and Andrew laughing is because I guess God, our parents probably never had that.
I think at 17, my mum was warning me.
I think I was actually 4 years old, actually. I was like 4.5. My first word, I think, was BRRR. So. Refurbishment.
My mum was probably going to watch this, but I remember at 17, she was warning me about credit.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because I signed up to a gym. And she was like, oh, don't spoil your credit. But at that age, I didn't know what credit was. So I was
yeah.
like, what are you talking about? But it's interesting that at 17,
Yeah,
you're having
yeah.
a conversation
good though.
about
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
property.
And you know what? That's big thanks to my mum, to be fair. And she reminds me that she's a person. She's like, don't forget where it all started. But yeah. So with that being said, 17 is when we started the conversation, and I think I remember being 18. I went into RBS Bank with my mum. She had a relationship with a bank manager, I think it was there at the time, and they got me in to see a mortgage broker. And I think they said you'd be the top 1% or something like that of people being your age and getting a mortgage. Bear in mind, I didn't get one at 18, but that's when the conversation started. And then we were going back and forth. I was on £2.70 an hour, so getting a meal deal was more than my hourly wage. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't eating out a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And if I was eating out, that's like me saying I worked for free today. I'm going to Nando's. I might as well have had a day off. I've not had the Nando's. So I was definitely in a loss. But with that being said, I turned 19, and that's when I started looking for property. And then I realized, okay, if I've got £9,000 or £10,000, a 10% deposit, what can I buy? Okay, you can buy something for 90 grand to 100 grand. And looking in Huddersfield, I knew that those areas weren't necessarily the areas that I'd want to be either living in or renting in. Because it was like when you're in your own area, you know where you kind of where it's at. You know what I mean? You know where's good and where's not. You know what's the block and what's definitely not the block. Or anywhere in between, and you don't really want to be on the other side. So with that being said, I started branching out and looking at cities, and a lot of my friends were spending time in Liverpool. So they were students. So by the time, obviously, I left after a year in sixth form, they had finished their second year. Now they're starting in uni. So it was around that time now. Everyone's transitioned. Everyone's in their first year. With that being said, I started spending a lot of time in Liverpool. So I thought, you know what? I can get something in Liverpool. Bear in mind, I'm from a town. So this is like, you know what I mean? You've gone clear. This is like Pablo Escobar type shit. You know, you're thinking to yourself, you know what? If we go to Liverpool, you're 19. You know what I mean? Liverpool for me seemed like a bit of a fantasy. It was a bit mad, yeah, because there's loads of clubs. In my area, there's 2. Maybe there's 3 now. But, you know, that's in 10 years. You know what I mean? So now looking, I'm thinking, right, shit, there's a lot of nice restaurants. There's franchises. There's stuff. Let me see what's going on. So then I ended up buying an apartment in Liverpool 1. So now I'm in the city centre. So my intention was to live there, which I did. I did do for a bit. And then I thought to myself, you know what? If I can work and rent this out, I can probably scale this to get another one. And then my goal was, you know what? We're probably going to end up owning this whole building. Like, bear in mind, freehold and leasehold was not even in my thing. I did not even, that one even in my mind, didn't even know what that was. It was like, mum, get a house, me, yeah, no problem, where's cool? All right, I'm going there. So anyway, committed to that, stayed there for a little bit, enjoyed it, kind of had a bit of the uni vibe without being in uni. Because obviously I was working, my mum and people at the office kind of gave me a bit of leeway. I was young, never really had like any crazy experiences where I was like, I need 6 months off. It was kind of like take 2 weeks out, go there, come back for 2 weeks, and just kind of like set up and just have a bit of space, kind of branch out and see the world, see how big it is. And I feel like that's a real big thing that people in, I don't know if it's just small towns. I'm assuming it's kind of everywhere, but people only know their area, don't they? And for me now, stepping out and going to Liverpool and then being in university, in and around universities, was like, whoa, it opens your eyes to a lot. You mature quick. You start to realize, wow, like you're hunky-dory at home, getting your food cooked, getting everything patterned.
Yeah.
But when you step out and you're fending for yourself and you're getting food and you're seeing people have problems and you're seeing, you know, like people in relationships and they're arguing in a club and you're seeing people crying and you're thinking, shit, this is like, do you know what I mean? So when all that was happening, you become a lot more aware, don't you? So I grew up pretty quick. And that's when I suppose I started looking at renting it out. And I met a guy who's a client of mine today, actually, and we've got a good relationship. He did Airbnb at that point. It was I think 2018, 19. I think it was it 2000. Yeah,
Just before
somewhere.
COVID,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, it was quite a bit before. It was like 2018, I believe it was. And he was speaking to me in the corridor, and I was like, "Whoa!" So I've now bought this apartment. I've kind of done my thing, and people now speak to each other. Like you won't see that. Like now, people are literally random. People are saying, "Oh, you're right, mate. What's going on?" And he was like 30 at the time. I'm like 19. It's like, "Oh, what's going on, bro? You all right?" I'm thinking, "Bro, this is like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm good, bro. What
Yeah.
about you? Like, what's going on?" And he was like, "Oh, what have you got? You got an apartment near and stuff." Was talking, and he goes, "Oh, I can do it for you, and I'll charge you." I think it was 40%, something like that. So what I did was I started to kind of warm to him and started to learn what he was doing. And then it got to a point where we started getting on, and I just said, "You know what, I'm going to do it myself." Did it myself. And then I was in Huddersfield, obviously letting that out on Airbnb or service accommodation. The money that was coming in was like, I thought, right, mum and dad, you're probably not going to work next year. Like handing you notice.
So wait, hold on. Just before you go on there, when you said he was charging you 40%, what do you mean by that?
So he actually said, "I'll take it over
Okay.
and put it on Airbnb myself, and I'll give you, I'll charge 40%. I'll give you 60%.
Got you. Yeah.
So then I thought, you know what, that's cool, but 40%'s a lot. Let me try and learn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how am I gonna get out hustled? Yeah, I don't know the guy. So we went for a few drinks, went for food and stuff, and it was over a period of time. But when it came a point where we had to make a decision. It was, you know what, I'll do it myself, but respect, like I appreciate it. So then I did that, and then I started making the money. But obviously, I wasn't there as much. But the money I was making was well worth me staying at home. Because that's when I was getting new cars. I was getting like quad bikes at that time. Do you know what I mean? And then I saved enough within about 12 months to buy another apartment in that same building.
Crazy. Off that one apartment.
Off that one apartment. And what I did was, when I was putting my £2.70, £2.70 away, I don't know how much I was saving, but I was saving enough to be able to do it and make it happen for the first one. I had a bit of support from like family here and there. But when I was putting that away, and then I started making the money from the Airbnb, I thought, okay, let me keep up the momentum of what I'm putting away. Let's not get carried away. And let's keep putting this Airbnb money away. And the money was good. It was quite a good time to be involved in it, because it wasn't like loads of competition, but it was a lot of demand. So with that being said, it kind of like now my savings were doubling. So it's going to take me half the time. Then if I get another property, it's going to take me, even less time to be able to save.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? So I just stayed disciplined. I had a bit of fun, but then I bought the second one 12 months after. And then I learned about a leasehold and a freehold. You know what I'm saying? And that's when, yeah.
So what plans of buying the building?
Plans of
Kinda
buying the
filtered.
building didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Probably about 18 months.
Fair.
So I'm glad my mum and dad didn't hand in no notice.
What were the big eye-opening moments, the moment you knew the difference between leasehold and freehold? Obviously, I remember it for myself, but it'll be interesting to see your perspective.
Yeah, so it was a bit mad. So I'm obviously Elon Musk at this point. Yeah. So I'm Elon Musk, on top of the world. People are in Huddersfield. Oh yeah. Oh, Aqeel, you do like it was mad actually, because people would say like always my name and property kind of in the same sentence. So it kind of almost was always there. Oh, Aqeel, you got property in Liverpool? Yeah, man, I'm just doing my thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I was on top of the world at this point. 19, probably 20 now at this point, because I got the second one. I was like, yeah, we're killing it. You know what I mean? What do you lot know about Liverpool? Yeah, no, not about Liverpool. What do you know about big cities? You like to stay, you know what I mean, in the country. So with that being said, a realization point was when I got an email from the freeholder saying, "Yo, big man, this ain't your building. It's your room. That from that fire door onwards, you do your thing. But if someone has to come in through that main door, that's our problem. We have control over that.
So those restrictions.
So take your stuff off, quick, sharp, like immediate, like with immediate effect. Like it needs to be sharp." So I thought, okay, you know what, cool, no problem. So obviously I tried to hustle around it. Was meeting people to get me for the big check-in. I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll meet you, no problem," because I'm making £600. I'll go meet you £50, no problem. It was an hour drive though from where I am, so it's a bit of a trek. So I'd go up there, drop off the key, see him, and make sure everything's sweet, and just kind of ticked over. Then they started blocking my fob.
Oh wow.
So to get your fob like recoded, you have to go down to the concierge. And to go down to the concierge, I'm a 20-year-old Asian kid from Huddersfield. You've got Pete upstairs or downstairs, even in the concierge. Scouser. He's not bothered about you're going to retire your mum and dad. Rules are rules. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's basically gone now, and they were really anti actually the people like that were in that building. So I was just like, it's not worth the headache, because it's just gonna get stupid. So that was a realization. So now I've got 2 apartments, and the plan that I had then kind of, I suppose, changed pretty quick. Yeah, changed pretty quick. So then I put those both on ASTs just to kind of say, you know what, let's make the cash flow, let's keep it steady. But through COVID and stuff, I was having like scientists staying,
Oh yeah.
well, finding vaccines and stuff. Yeah. So I had a real good time when it was working,
Mm.
and I enjoyed it because my overheads are really low, especially living with family and stuff.
Were scientists staying as when it was an
Guests.
Airbnb?
Yeah, as
Okay.
guests. Yeah. Because at that point it was really tough with like the whole I think social distancing and all those type of
Yeah.
things. So with mine, because it was just a studio, it was like you couldn't really fit any more than one person. You wouldn't have two people from two different households. But what was happening was they were staying there for a long duration. I was getting one hit and it was covering me for 2 or 3 months.
Nice.
So it was kind of like there wasn't the check-in every couple of days. There wasn't a clean every couple of days. So the overheads were really low. And then there wasn't the thing of the freeholder wouldn't have known. But then eventually it caught up and it was just like it was more headache than it was worth. And that's when both then went ASTs and long-term tenant.
Did you normally have like tourists in there in general, or was it mostly like contractors throughout the whole time of you doing it as an Airbnb?
To be fair, while I had the Airbnbs, it was, I think, 99% of the time tourists, which was mad because I've never really been a person that's been on holiday a lot. Like family, I don't know if there was not too much disposable, if we had like a decent sized family, so it was too expensive, whatever it was. But we never went on too many holidays.
Hmm.
So it was wild for me that the whole world was coming to me. So I had Argentina, you had like Lithuania, you had like UAE, and I'm thinking to myself, like, even Brazil, Colombia, like places that are really far, Australia, and I was kind of like, whoa, this is mad because even though I ain't been able to go on holiday, the fact of the matter is the whole world's coming to me for a one bed or a studio flat in
Provided
Liverpool that cost
accommodation.
me £10,000 and a little bit of furnishing.
Yeah, fair.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was crazy, and I think I was just so narrow minded and small minded at that point. Like to even think now that was exciting. It's just like as a kid or as like a young adult, I wasn't exposed to what some people are naturally kind of born into, which is a good thing because now I can share that, which is obviously why I document and kind of say to people, get out. And I always mention like if you're from the ends, people like some of my friends will call me and say, "Oh, must be good you don't live in the ends." And I'm like, you can take the mick, it's fine. But at the same time, there's some kids that really I've got like hundreds of messages on TikTok and stuff, and people are really like telling me problems and stuff like
Yeah, no.
and how things are changing because they listen to what's going on and they feel like it's possible or they live it through me and I get the adrenaline going and stuff like that. So it really means a lot.
No, I think that's a big testament, man. Like we're probably all from a similar type of area in some way, but obviously we grew up in Hackney and in London, which was rough. It's not like what it is today. It's kind of like quite affluent and yeah, strange in certain parts. But ultimately, even just us managing a property to some of our friends, it's like we're a tycoon.
Yeah.
Just one property. They'll be like, wow, is that, how did you even do that? And the fact that you probably experienced a similar type of thing where even you just having that one property, you thought, yeah, I'm on top of the world, until you're exposed to more and you're like, this is nothing. This ain't even
Yeah,
an entry
It's true.
point.
It's
Yeah.
perspectives though, I
Yeah,
guess,
but
because
it's good, it changes.
yeah, people
Yeah,
from the
it's
ends
true.
though, it's like they need to see that though, and I feel like that gap is being bridged
Yeah,
slowly,
slowly,
especially
100%.
through the content now. Like you
Yeah,
said, there's a bit of
yeah,
social responsibility there
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
to produce this
Yeah,
stuff.
because when my content guy, when we go through the ideas for the month, I'll fine comb through the figures, the bits that are not AI generated, the bits that are him thinking that he can fill the rest of the sentence, and I'll make sure that everything I put out is bang on. Because in an industry like property, which I suppose it shouldn't be as hard to lie, but because there's company's house and there's certain things of like referencing and credit scores and stuff like that. There's so many things people could let out to show that they're real, which obviously probably compromises a bit of like GDPR. But at the same time, a lot of people find it very easy to lie and sugarcoat things. So for me, when I kind of realized the impact that I had at such a early stage in the documenting journey, I just really didn't want to be one of them. Like, I'm not on social media saying, you know what, I've got it all figured out, I'm a millionaire. It's not that. Things are getting better. And I'm working towards, maybe a 10 million, 20 million portfolio. But right now, you're talking about someone that 5, 6 years ago just has gone to a city and has been gassed because he's with the city lights. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's the reality. Like, we're not saying it, we've got it. I'm doing stuff. My mom and dad, sometimes I don't even know what I'm buying and what I'm not buying because you've got to a level where it becomes a little bit lonely. But now your friendship and your people are becoming serious entrepreneurs. So now the stake and the level that you think you can get to the goal is different. Before you're the king, you're the man of the hour. You know what I mean? Yo, that's Aqeel property. Now it's like, okay, don't worry, Aqeel property. We'll put you under our wing until you get to where we are, and that's nice. but it's also a total different perspective, like Ross said.
Yeah, you change your environment, you change your perspective. That's exactly what's happened for you. So
100%.
that's great to see.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Cool, man. So obviously you've put these 2 properties onto ASTs now. What's the transition after that? And I mean, I guess that experience, right? The freeholder coming in and
Yeah.
saying, "Listen, no more
Yeah.
essays in our building."
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, they would have been like, "Do you know what? That's it. Like property, I'm done."
Oh.
Like, what was it for you, and what was the next step after that?
Yeah. So obviously at that point, COVID was hitting. So that was just before. Obviously for me to fathom that I've spent, well, the first one was like a 10%, and then obviously I had to get it converted to a buy to let, and the second one was obviously a normal buy to let deposit. When you're putting that much money out, if I went into Manchester, Selfridges, or whatever it may be, anywhere that anyone knows, and you're going to go give that type of money, you're the man. No one can tell you what to do. These times now, I'm spending 40 grand collectively, or 30 grand collectively, and you got another man that you don't know on an email telling you can't do this. So that was a lot. That was rough. Do you know what I mean? Because there's levels. Now you're realizing there's levels. So at that point, I never wanted to hear freehold or leasehold and being on one side. If it was anything, it was going to be I own the land, which is obviously the freehold, and I own the house. It's collective.
Yeah.
This ain't. There's no two sides to this story anymore. Do you know what I mean? Or two sides to the coin. This is my house, my land. Yeah. So with that being said, I had to pivot. So that was when I really started spending time in the office. So I was really strict. So I'd go to work in the morning. For the day. I'd finish. I'd go to the gym from work, and then after the gym, I'd always go back to the office, and I'd spend. That's why I was doing like 9 till 5. Then let's say 5:30, I was at the gym till 7, and then 7, I'd be back to the office for 7:15, and I'd work until 10, 11 o'clock, and that was every day. I did that for years, honestly. And I was just sat in the office. It was like a library, so everything was off. It was just my room with one light on. People would call me at stupid o'clock. So Nikhil, you're not still in that office, are you? You're not still in the office, because I was known to be that guy. And when I started to be known for that, I held it, and I really lived up to that. Because now if anyone says it, like I always say that you can't catch up to someone that never stops. So my thing is it's so bad how much I work. I'm not even saying that I work really well, but 99% of the time I'm working, like, and I love it. It doesn't feel like a job. So at that point, it was like, okay, what's the next move now? Leasehold, freehold. What's the next move? And I was studying and trying to understand. I didn't really use too much free material because a mad story, actually. I was learning about the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent. And I was kind of speaking to people. My brother-in-law, he's a mortgage broker and a financial advisor. And what happened was long story short, he was telling me bits of his end. My uncle's a solicitor. He owns a solicitor's firm. He was telling me bits of his end. So I thought I figured out the BRRR myself. Bear in mind, I didn't watch a YouTube video. So I'm thinking this is like 6 months in.
The gold mine.
So I'm like 6 months in. I'm like, listen, like I was saying to the man then, right, get the champagne. We're about to go clear. Do you know what I mean? No, like, anyway, book that club, we'll get in a booth. We're getting a table tonight. Nah, so I've ended up thinking that, you know what, this is groundbreaking.
Yeah,
this is like SpaceX. Do you get what I'm saying? this is the next level. You get me? So with that being said, and ended up going on YouTube anyway, because now I knew what I was looking for. You know, when you're trying to figure it out, you don't know what to search.
Yeah.
How to make money in property. Yeah, maybe. But now we're talking like 2000, and this was 2020, 2019. And I felt like I wasn't too exposed to like any mentors or knowing no one in the area. Anyway, started looking at it, and then I realized all that 6 months that I spent in the office learning about it, I could have learned in 2 hours on a YouTube video. So anyway, I suppose it just sharpened the skills really, and got me to a point of brushing up on it. And that's when I approached my uncle. I said to my uncle, look, there's a BRRR. Yeah, like, do you wanna go for it? And that's then when that was in. To be honest, that was the end of 2023. So the project actually landed 2024. So only last year,
Wow, okay.
really. So at the start of last year was kind of like we're midway through it. So 2024 Jan, and that's when we did our first BRR. And then obviously since then, it's been really a lot.
Did he know about what BRRR
No,
was? So
no.
you brought something new to him.
Yeah. So he's always been a bit of a hustler. He's like a bit of an investor, kind of like take risks and prosper type of guy. He's really professional in terms of his own firm. He's actually a judge as well. But he's always been a bit hungry. He's always been looking at like the bigger picture. So when I spoke to him about it, we actually met at Trafford Centre, and I took him for a drink, and I basically explained it. And I think he didn't invest in the idea of the BRR, but solely in me, knowing that I'm responsible, knowing that I want to have skin in the game. I'm going to front half. I actually ended up fronting more than him actually at the when it was happening, because there was mistakes that were happening, and I didn't want him to know about the mistakes and have to ask him for money. So I was then going out doing what I need to do in terms of like putting money aside and then covering the difference, or the, you know what I mean, the contingency. So that's when really the development started, and that was a 2-bed BRR in Huddersfield.
Okay. So there's a 2-bed. What did you convert it into? Is it just the refurb or?
Yeah, it was just a refurb.
Okay.
So we literally went back to brick
Okay.
and then fully renovated. It was a probate property. So we literally had everything done from drive to back garden, fencing. The only thing we didn't do actually was roof. Replaster, rewire, replumb, new kitchen, bathroom, carpentry, all that. So we went literally, did the full works. But I think that was a little bit of, there was enough in there for us. We left £15,000 in the deal, so it turned out to be pretty good.
Okay.
My idea was to flip it, but if it all went wrong, if it all went right, we'd do a BRR. So it was kind of like, I sold it to BRR because that was a harder concept to grasp. So if he understood that, if I said, oh, you know what, we'll just sell it, we'll make more money, it was kind of like, okay, no problem. I wanted to get the toughness out of the way, really, the least barrier to entry for our conversation. And with that being said, it was more like, well, let's just learn and let's just see. Whatever happens, happens. We can afford to lose 10 grand each. It's not a problem. Let's just, or not lose it, but tie it in the property. But for now, that's really trying to learn, and that's really where the development started.
Did you get a mentor in this process as well? Because some people typically would say this as like when we did our first rent to rent deal, we didn't have any mentors. I just read a book and just got to work.
Wicked.
Right. I think it's just more the attitude.
Yeah.
Not saying it's a great decision. I'm not saying I recommend that to anybody, but for you, it sounds like you kind of just went with
Do
it.
you know what?
Well, I mean, we did have someone guiding us a little bit, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
to
they
some
were
degree.
a mentor
Yeah, it
per
wasn't a
se.
mentor.
So I think for you was there somebody there saying,
yeah.
Aqeel, this is the right property to buy?
No, do you
This
know
is
what?
how
That's
much
mad,
you're
actually.
gonna
I
make.
should have actually mentioned it. So the day I was supposed to collect the keys, so I think it was November 2023. Yeah, bear in mind, we started actually working on it maybe December 23. So call it 24. We started work, but just before the year ended, which is ended 2023. The day I was supposed to collect the key, I paid a mentor.
Okay.
Do you get me? So he checked the deal before I collected the key, but
That is
I couldn't have
hilarious.
not collected that key. That was my key
Okay, yeah,
at
you
that point.
exchanged, yeah,
I was
completed.
exchanged, and
Cool.
completed, yeah. So I did have that, but that was my like play. At that point, it was mad actually, because I had to put so much money into kind of front to my uncle to be like, I'm that guy. You know what I mean? I'm worthy of investing in, because I can front half the money. So I'm basically bringing more than what you're bringing at this point. I'm bringing sweat equity and equity, actually cash. Do you know what I mean? So now with that being said, it was kind of a thing where the mentor was kind of there was supposed to guide and kind of help. But what he did was he kind of checked the numbers. He said, it'll be all right, it'll work. And then when we started breaking ground and started doing the work, I think I called him throughout that year. I must have called him 3 times. Yeah, because they say sometimes the best way to learn a language is to speak it. And that's exactly, like, I live by that. Yeah. What am I going to tell him? Oh, yeah. Who do I call to get my drive done? Well, you're going to obviously Google that and find a contractor out here, or you're going to pull in some links that you got, or ask a guy that's already done work, ask the plasterer. They're in that industry. So yeah, that was it. I did have a mentor. I don't think I used him as much as I did. And I couldn't even afford him at that time because I was putting so much money into the house. So I went to my little brother, who's 4 years younger than me. I went to him and said, I'll front half. Have you got half? And he goes, yeah, cool, no problem, no questions asked. And at that point, I realized, you know what? The people that you're going to really rely on are going to be like, mainly family. But now you're realizing, like, my little brother or my sisters or whoever it would have been, like, they're just as important as my uncle, because now you're realizing that there's a bit of money, a bit of stuff, a bit of backup floating around. And now you know that maybe the people, like little brothers especially, they might learn from you, or they're following your footsteps. And then you realize, okay, you know what? If he's been able to save, most kids aren't being able to save. At that point, it was about £15,000 for the mentoring. And let's say he put in 7.5, and he was probably what, 20, 19? Do you know what I mean? So it was a real realization point where it's like, you know what? Maybe I can do more than I think because I've got more backup. And maybe I'm also being a bit of a positive influence, whether it was me or family. But yeah, we're going somewhere here. Let's move together.
But you're also being resourceful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're not necessarily
Yeah.
just saying, okay, this is the situation. What do I do? It's like, actually, let me utilize
Raise
the network that I
finance,
have
yeah.
around me, right? Raise finance. The concept of using other people's money mate, you're talking about using other people's money in our environment where we grew up. It's like, mate, you better pay that back. It's almost like you're borrowing from a loan shark in our mindset, in
Yeah,
our
yeah.
environment growing up. But now, like, you're in a space where you're actually coming to someone with an opportunity that's
Yeah.
going to benefit them. In what way it benefits them is up to
Yeah.
them to determine. But it could
Exactly.
either be they're in the property, or it could be a case they're getting a return. But you fundamentally were being resourceful
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
going out and doing that. So there's a testament.
Yeah.
There's a testament to that.
Yeah, 100%. It is resourceful, and I do think it is that you do have like the amount of people that try and raise finance but struggle is unbelievable. But at the same time, like if you are investable and you show people that you're someone that's not just gonna go and lose the money or splash it or whatever it may be, like you hear the horror stories in the industry.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, if you're a person that's honourable
Mhm.
and you're a man of your word or a woman of your word, people will invest. And I think my brother at that time really opened my eyes to, you know what? Maybe that was the first time I actually did like raise finance. So maybe it opened my mind to the possibility that now that we've done this with him, how many other people are there?
Mm. I think it's a key thing, right? Property is a people business, and I say this time and time again. Like, people buy into you, not your deal calculator
100%.
or
100%.
your pitch deck. But I think something to also note is you being part of the accountancy firm. Did that give you access to then thinking, okay, actually, maybe I can access this pool of people, business owners, investors, who I can potentially loan money from?
I think what it did was it definitely let me know that there was a higher net worth of people, and taught me how to speak to those types of people, how to communicate with them, how they kind of work, what words you do say and don't say. So I think it was that, but it's also that conflict of interest. So I couldn't just like kind of use it as like a contact book of let me call everybody and say, and plus if I did, which was a high chance of me maybe not doing it exactly how I'd say I was going to do it, it might have gone a little bit worse, and the contingency might not have been 10%, it might have been 30%. That I wouldn't want that then to be brought up, first of all, to my mum, and
Yeah.
second of all, to the firm. Like, because now you're not just a bad developer, or you're not just made a mistake, now the accountancy is bad. So it was like, that would be too much risk, because now you're delivering under pressure. Like, when I actually did it with my uncle, I took funding from him, and I actually took a bridge. So I was kind of like, oh, this is a lot of pressure, but I'd much rather that pressure than to take the whole lot from, let's say, a client. But what it has done is given me the fundamentals and the foundation to now be able to communicate with people that are worth tens and tens of millions. And when I do raise money, like I raised 130 grand in 24 hours, like last week. I wasn't even going to buy that property, but because I knew I had capital, well, I didn't actually know I had it, but I knew someone would have it in and around. I was able to just do that. And you can get stuff quick, and you can get stuff that people are not really going to be able to close on as quick as you are, because you've got social capital.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I remember even when me and Andrew first found out about BRR, it's revolutionary, isn't it? Like, it's like, this is such an
It feels
amazing-
illegal.
Yeah.
It does, isn't it? We said that
Yeah,
as
I
well.
remember you
Like,
said
Yeah.
I
exactly
said
the
that. I
same
was
thing.
like, how are the government allowing people to do
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this is a cheat code.
It is really, yeah.
Cool. So successful BRR project. Obviously, everything went well. You left 15 grand in.
15.
So amazing,
Yeah.
amazing numbers.
Yeah.
Probably just a short run through of kind of what you bought it for, what you spent.
Yeah, so we bought it for, I think it was 117, including legal fees. We spent, I think we spent 35,
Okay.
not including bridging fees and things like that. Ended up on the back end value of about 195, I think it ended up being. So then my refinance, I think it was 80% loan to value, and then got basically left 15K in it, which then when I give my uncle the money back, it was like, whoa. And the rental on that property, I believe that property rents for 875. So it's pretty good for £15,000 left in. And the area is like unbelievable.
Nice.
Like, it's a really nice area. And to be fair, like, it was a decent project to learn, because took out the chimney breast. We actually, like I said, did the landscaping. We did a drive. So it was enough for us to get enough experience. I say us, it was me that was hands-on. I think he came at the start and came at the end. But it was enough for me to kind of understand, right, this is what it takes, and do I want to do it? Because a lot of people start and they talk about 10 properties, but I assume that not everybody that's done a development has come out on the other side totally fine and said, yeah, I'll do it again. So sometimes it's like, well, slow your horses.
Yeah.
Do one. If you like it, scale or progress. If not, don't think about 100 properties just yet. Do your first one and see how you feel, 'cause it might not be for you.
I've had a friend that said the exact same thing, talking about doing new builds. They're like, I'm never doing a new build again in my life, just because they've done one and they was
Yeah,
raving
yeah,
about
yeah,
it, and it's
yeah.
great. Don't get me wrong, and it's an achievement in a sense, but they just said it's not worth the stress of going through that. So
Yeah, I
it's
can
it's
imagine.
good to find out in that way.
Yeah, yeah. And the only way you find out is by going through it sometimes. Isn't it?
100%.
You know what I mean?
So then you've done that project. When did the next one come around?
The next one came around probably about 4 months later, and that was the HMO that you saw.
Okay. So unpack that actually. So you went from BRR straight
Yeah.
into HMOs.
Yeah, so what I did was I documented that project. So that finished middle of no, like start of 2024. So that was last year. I think it was April. It was fully done, refinance, everything was done. So at that point, I thought, you know what, let me document it. So I was documenting it and kind of coming to social media then and starting kind of throwing a few posts up. And at that point, I was able to raise money because people had seen it. I had a bit of traction. So I was documenting it, showing who I was, showing what was going on. And not even just maybe because I wasn't too heavy on social media, but I was talking about it and people were then I was asking for the people in my area, friends of friends of friends, can they come and do this? Can they help me with that? And getting my own team together. And they were saying maybe to one of their friends, oh yeah, I'm just going to Aqeel's on the weekend to go do a landscaping. So now they know that I'm doing it. So the word started spreading. And when that started happening, and obviously me being pretty young at the time, it was kind of like the word was spreading. And then I had a client of mine that basically knew a friend, and he was just like, "Oh, my friend has got a bit of money. Why do you have a conversation with him?" So then I had a conversation with that guy, and that's when I then raised enough to buy that HMO, which I bought for 185,000 in Greater Manchester. Because at that point, I did call my mentor because I said, "Right, I've got about 300 grand. What should I do here?" He's like, "Go down the BRRR to HMO." So at that point, had the money, had the guidance, I suppose, secured the property through a deal sourcer and bought it for 185, spent about 110. And then with legal fees, I ended up being all in at 307 and I refinanced it at 400,000. So then I got back out 300K. So it cost me roughly 7 grand and then maybe a few legal costs here and there, which was, yeah. But then what we did was, because it was 7 grand left in the deal, we was producing 2,700, I think it was, in rent. So we held it for 2-3 months, broke even, and then got the refinance. There was no mortgage. So it was actually infinite return on investment. So we just, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I
Because the
get you.
mortgage wasn't there. So it kind of made sense. And then he was like, right, okay, I got a little bit more money. And then I went to a little bit more. Then I went to a little bit more. And before you know it, I think it was 1.2 million from him today. We've got about 1.2 million out now, me and him.
That's good.
So that kind of worked. So raising the investment happened pretty smoothly after that.
Yeah.
Kind of knock-on effect.
Fair.
Were you hands-on in this project? Because you said in the BRR project,
Yeah.
you were quite hands-on. It seemed
Yeah.
like you were somewhat on the tools to some degree.
Bro, I was
right?
trying. Yeah, I'm telling you, yeah.
But then now compare that to the HMO property.
So that's a good question actually, and it's a good point. So at that point, I realized this is not scalable. My back's gonna go before I'm lifting slabs, and so I'm lifting slabs and kind of doing my thing. It's not gonna be scalable. If I'm on site with a team, a friend, don't get me wrong, some of the friends weren't as good as I thought they were gonna be at doing what they were supposed to do. So at that point now, I'm like, if I want to scale, how am I gonna do that? Right, I need to take myself out of the equation. I'm a bit of I'm the bottleneck. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So I'm inexperienced, so let me try and find a proper team. And that's when I found a team in Manchester. And then he basically was a project manager, if you like. I don't really call it a project manager because if you're a good builder and you've got your own team, you're
Project
managing your
manager,
team, you're
innit?
project managing, but it's
Yeah.
all inclusive. I don't want to see that on no quote. Do you know what I mean? But at that point, and I realized specs. I realized obviously that the difference between change of uses, and I understood, right, okay, now we're going to need someone that's going to be able to comply with regs because there's a lot at stake. You're going to have a licensing officer, excuse me, on the back end. They need to be, perfect. So at that point, architects and stuff like that, it was all new, and I just threw it to a team, and I was checking in every 2 weeks and just doing site visits to make sure that everything was looking right, at least.
Yeah, you've transitioned from like working in to working on.
Exactly, 100%.
good.
And that's to scale. That's essential in anything. They do say work on the business, not in the business, like that across the board. And that's when I learned that, and that's why now obviously we're able to handle multiple projects.
So it's just now you've just basically created a repeatable process,
Exactly,
which enables you to scale, which is obviously quite critical.
Yeah, exactly.
What were some of your like takeaways from dealing with contractors? Because I think anyone in this industry has always had a story about dealing with contractors. What did you find like managing them? Because they're very different, especially coming from an accounting background where you're working in the office. It's very different in a corporate setting into a property setting. So what was your experience like?
To be honest, because after the first project, the first one with my uncle, after that, it was kind of like good teams and I worked. They were perfect. But the first time when I was micromanaging, I had a guy that started within 2 weeks. I got rid of him. He didn't even get through the strip out. Like it was that bad. I just knew, you know, you hear the horror stories about how bad contractors are. So I was a bit like, I knew he was going to be treading on eggshells anyway, because I'm already looking for a reason to fire him because everyone talks about how they owe money and stuff like that. And obviously that's when stage payments were a thing. So I made sure that I never overpaid. If anything, they were waiting for me to issue payments. I had a contractor. He was supposed to do a strip out, didn't do it, got fired. That's it, done. He was out the way. But the biggest, I suppose, issue that I had was when I was doing the micromanaging. I had like, for example, I had like a general contractor that I'd do like the bits and bats, and I had the electrician, and then I had the plumber, and it got to a point where the plumber and the electrician alone were really good, so was the contractor, but there was parts in the middle that no one was taking accountability for, so it was having to bring me to site. So I was finishing work and having to get to site on a day that wasn't a site visit to now hash out, right, you're saying it's him, you're saying it's him. I'm getting messages, and I didn't realize how bitchy the industry was. And I didn't expect that. You know, you hear that contractors are sometimes have like boo-boos, but this was
Yeah.
like a next level. This was like really like petty. So I had to get to site, got them all on site, and I said, right, you're saying it's him, he's saying it's you, so we're all gonna fight, or all, what we're gonna do, because this needs to be sorted, and I'm not skilled enough to know who's problem, who actually really needs to solve it.
Yeah.
With that being said, as soon as I was there and everyone was there, they didn't want to do it face to face. So they said, you know what, forget it, cool, I'll fix it. So I was like, right, we could have just saved ourselves a week. But in terms of horror stories, I never gave anyone the edge to be able to take the mic, to be honest. I didn't really do that. I knew that I had to be in control. I knew that I was, and that's the beauty of property. You start the boss. Do you know what I mean? Who now is above you?
Yeah.
So if you're going to be the boss, you got to wear the cap. Do you know what I mean? You got to
Yeah.
be that guy. So now if there's a problem where someone does take the mick, it means I'm not on site enough. It means I'm not overlooking. It means I've not dotted my I's and crossed my T's. So with that being said, don't give anyone the power to take advantage of you on your project,
No, of course.
because that's me and my project. So you work for me on my things. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose, you know, touch wood, I've been blessed, and now I found teams where I probably wouldn't look elsewhere. So I think hopefully, as long as they stay in form, we're good to go.
Okay.
Fair. Yeah, makes sense. So obviously we know, well, people in Manchester, people in property will know that Tameside introduced the Article 4 direction. And I believe that's after you made a purchase in Manchester as well. So what are your thoughts now? What's the plan with that property that you are going to convert into a HMO? And I think I saw that your plan is now pivoting away from HMOs.
Yeah.
So talk me through that. Talk me where your head's at.
Yeah, so once I did the first HMO, it's good to understand that that went really well. That was on time. It was delivered perfect. The finish was amazing. You went actually, didn't you? You saw it, and that was when we met.
Yeah,
wasn't
that
it?
was
That
really
was when
good.
me and you met, which was actually mad because that was prior to the purchase that I showed you. So we did that HMO. Then we were bidding, weren't we, on the second one?
Yeah.
I outbid him.
Yeah.
FYI. No, I actually didn't. Your price was higher, and then I just so happened to get in touch with them when it fell through. So I was just I was better at following up.
Follow-up game.
You know what I mean? So with with that being said, we met there, and then I actually took him and Suleiman to the one that I just finished because we just kind of got on, didn't we?
Yeah.
Kind of clicked. And it was just like I was more than happy, like my pleasure to kind of take people that are in the industry, whether you got the property or not. I think I did say to you, if you buy it, then I'll buy it off you. If you win, I'll buy it off you.
I remember you saying that.
But with that being said, it was kind of like where we were introduced. So yeah, got them properties that the new two. So bought the second one now, which was the second HMO. The first one went really well. It was kind of like, okay, let's rinse and repeat this now because we're gonna be making good cash flow, which at that point was like probably needed for the business. So when your cash flow is good in the property business, it doesn't really matter what you leave in a deal because your cash flow is so good. You just kind of you're working that back straight away from day one. So with that being said, went and got one down the road, just by being consistent really with the agent. So that was good. Got change of use, and then when I got change of use, which is good, then Tameside then 3-4 months later had basically smacked in the Article 4 direction with immediate effect. But between the one that we were bidding on that I managed to get to the Article 4 direction, there was an auction I attended to in the middle, and that was on the same road again. So I went to auction, didn't have any money, thought, let me just go and look at the auction. Do you know what I mean? Let me see what an auction's like. I've never been to an auction.
Yeah.
I've used a deal sourcer so I found my first one, used a deal sourcer, I found my own buy-to-let stuff and Airbnb stuff myself. So now I'm kind of getting used to using a deal sourcer and me myself. So we're using like multiple resources to find these properties. Seen the auction, gone there, only gonna fucking won it, Anna. So I've gone there. I'm like, I just bought one down the road for 212. This auction, the maximum going is 210 with the fees and stuff. So I got it for 202. So I'm gassed, and me being gassed lasted about, I'm gonna say 10 minutes until I realized like shit, I've got like 50 days
Yeah.
to get the money. Do you know what I mean? And that was a whole nother story. But going back to the question, when Tameside then, because now I had two that had a problem. Because yeah, there's the whole argument of, right, you've got change of use. You know what I mean? You've got your building control in, so they know that it's obviously going through the transition of being a HMO. And there's a whole speculation about, is that even going to be accepted or not? But what I did was I actually found out through a DM. So a guy that I know in the area messaged me saying, oh, bro, I don't know if you've heard, but it's immediate effect Article 4 in Tameside. So at that point, I was just like, typical that something like this was going to happen. Like, I've just cleaned up on that street.
Yeah.
But then what I said was, you know what? I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. You know, we've got a will to win. I'm not going to get down or feel any type of way about it. Like, the show goes on. We're going to keep riding till the wheels fall off. We're going to start. Maybe we can't do it. Forget it. We'll pivot. You know, maybe it's going to be a BRR and just a buy to let then. No problem. We'll work it out. So what I think I'm really good at is not having too much emotion to what it is and what we're trying to do. Like, yeah, the plan was to have a few HMOs. If it's any different, which is obviously why I'm pivoting, I'll get into that, then I'm not bothered. Like, at the end of the day, nothing's going to stop me from getting to where I need to be. Nothing's going to make me feel like, you know what, shit, we messed up. No, it doesn't matter. Let's just keep going. If there's a problem, we're going to keep going and we're going to figure it out. And that's just how I've always had the will to win. And that's just, in reality, that's all you can do. Or you can sit there and cry and complain about it and try and fight a losing battle, because the councils, and they're not going to listen to you either. It's not really a thing. So that one is still, I suppose, to be continued. If I do get it easy and they say, you know what, you are going to be able to go through and get with your change of use, do it as a HMO, that I haven't started that project yet, then cool, no problem. The second one, we haven't got change of use, so I'll just BRR that. But if they do give us a problem, I'll just BRR it, leave a little bit of money in it. You only really lose money in property if you sell. If you keep it, the capital appreciation will do its thing.
Of course.
Hold fire. Do you know what I mean? So with that being said, I'm now pivoting away, because I got, after those two, I got a flip in Walsall, a big flip. And I got another HMO, and that went into Article 4 as well. That was in Walsall. So that's a 7-bed. And Article 4 came in on the 31st of October, but I've got all my change of use and everything, and I'm converting that. So I think I'll finish that one, maybe one in Manchester, and then everything after that. It's probably going to be buy to let. Yeah. And you get grandfather rights, don't you? So yeah.
Cool.
So it's a bit sporadic. A lot's happened. So it's like, so from HMO now that maybe not going to be HMOs.
So what's going to be your focus now? Like, do you know, or is it something you're still working on?
Yeah, I think I really did. Looking back now, I really did enjoy the concept of the BRR to buy to let. Just a normal 2-3 bed family house, because you see the average household size in the UK is 2.4 people. So the demand in the UK in comparison to the supply is ridiculous. So obviously house prices are going up drastically in that area. So 2 to 3 bedrooms, or a 2-bed to convert to a 3-bed is gold. So for me now, going for the shiny stuff, like the shiny penny syndrome of HMOs, cash flow, and I've realized that when we're getting good cash flow, we're just kind of pumping it back in and buying more properties anyway. But I'm raising funds quicker than the pot's growing. So if I'm raising funds now, what are we doing with the cash flow? So the cash flow is not really a problem. We have businesses, we have things that are ticking over, funding lifestyles and things like that. So with that being said, the shiny penny syndrome is non-existent anymore. Let's look at something that's sustainable. Let's look at something that we're going to enjoy, because now I've kind of done the whole, I'm going to start with a smaller house and do a BRR. I'm going to get a flat and do a Airbnb. I'm going to do a rent to rent, because I have a rent to rent business. I'm going to do HMO conversion, so BRR to HMO. I'm going to then do it with 100% investor finance cash. I'm going to do it in my local area. I'm going to do it 2 hours away from home. I'm going to get an investor and I'm going to bridge it. Do you understand? So I've kind of taken it step by step and always kind of shifted it. So first it was 100% investment. Now we'll do investment and bridge. Then it was just bridge. Now we won't do a development finance, but now we might do development finance and investor funds. Then it might be Aqeel's money a little bit. So it's always trying to find that sweet spot. A skill that people kind of overlook is having a project so far, because guess what? If something does go wrong, you're gonna have to find a way of someone else to deal with it. So investing far. So I own property in, I think, 5 different areas. So it's Liverpool, Manchester, Walsall, Leeds, and Huddersfield. That's because I've been chasing the opportunities. I haven't been, I suppose, so stuck in, it needs to be West Yorkshire, it needs to be Manchester. I need to learn. There's no two ways about it. The sooner I learn, the sooner I can make the real money moves. Right now,
Yeah.
it's just getting miles. We're just doing it for mileage right now to
Yeah.
make sure we know that first of all, this is what we want to do. And second of all, if you can handle the pressure.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I try to learn as many skills: distance, pressure, bridges, development finance, investors, own cash. So with that being said, I kind of took it up a notch every time. So yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't know what the question was, if there was a
No,
question.
but like, if anything, you're playing. I always say I like playing the long game, but you're essentially playing the long game. Like you're playing long term. The fact that the average household has 2.4 people in it.
People,
Funny
yeah.
enough, I even saw that stat on. I think I was on Property Data the other day, and I saw that stat there.
Yeah.
So it's live information, and it made me think differently about the properties that you want to go out there and buy, especially when you're thinking, 5, 10, 15,
Yeah.
20 years from now. HMOs generally, for me, when I look at it, it's a cash flow play. But I've said this to you in conversation as well. When you are going to sell a HMO, there's a small pool that you have access
100%.
that are looking for that type of property. But when you're selling a 2-3 bedroom, you're going to get investors that are looking at that, but you're also going to get people that are families that are more likely to want to buy that type of home. So if you've increased the value on that and you've increased the spec of the property in various ways, you're going to have a pool of options there. So it's
Yeah,
just about, doing it
exactly.
to a high standard. So I like that approach.
Yeah. And so go on, man.
No, I was gonna say, I think my question is, what's the strategy around that though, right? Is it just all to rent out and hold long term? Because obviously with the renters reform coming in and
Yeah.
I guess the regulation around
Yeah.
tenancies, what's your thoughts on that? And yeah.
Yeah, well, with the bill, again, it's kind of like with my estate agents and management companies. It's probably quite bad, but I don't pay no mind. Nothing I do, if I like again, no point crying over spilt milk.
Yeah.
No matter what I'm gonna do, it's not gonna stop my capital appreciation. That's where wealth is. I'm chasing the wealth. The cash flow, if it was break even, no problem. We'll make a business. It's okay. I always believe when you have the time, you don't have the money. When you have the money, you don't have the time. That's why investors have the money, not the time, and they can give you the money
Yeah.
to go and invest. So if I've paid a mentor, yeah, or I've paid for a property, I might go and learn through on YouTube about something else, my next move. So I'm now doing a BRRR to the 2-3 bed house, but now I'm learning about HMO because my money's tied up. I got the time potentially. So with that being said, the rent reform bill, I genuinely don't pay no mind. It is going to make it difficult, but our issue is to problem solve. That's always our thing. The more problems you can solve, the more you're going to get paid, in essence. So bring them all on. It's not going to stop where we're going anyway. So at the end of the day, that's that. And in terms of the HMOs, if we put it in simple terms, you've got a house I got a bricks and mortar valuation on mine, and a commercial. The bricks and mortar was 280,000. Yeah. So 280,000 is if a family went to go and buy it as a family house, 280,000. But I've now got it valued because of commercial at 400,000. If I get a 75% loan to value, that leaves me with a £300,000 loan. If shit hits the fan and I do need to sell it, I'm only going to get 280,000 potentially. So I'm over leveraged. So if the bank recall it or something goes wrong, I owe £300,000 because it's interest only, but the house only worth 280. So now you're in negative equity. You're over leveraged.
Mm.
So I started to realize that this balance sheet thing, yeah, maybe it looks cool because you have added an uplift of 100 grand, or in my case, 307 in and 400 value, so 93 grand uplift. But in essence, if things do go wrong and you build your portfolio based on that, first of all, like you said, you're only going to be able to sell to investors. And what do all investors want? They want a deal.
Yeah.
So you ain't selling it for what it's worth. And you're not going to be able to sell it to the masses. And you're over leveraged. So I'm thinking, you know what, to have a few to tick over are good. But it's not the end all and be all. So now we're going to stick to the basics. We're going to go back to basics, build a nice, decent size of those. And then I think I'm alongside the smaller ones, I want to get into like flat conversions and kind of take risk, but a different type of risk now, while we're obviously building our foundation of bread and butter stuff.
Yeah. I've got a question for you, just one to get your opinion on. Right. So it's more like a hypothetical situation, but let's say someone's approached you, they want to get into property, but their main aim is to build cash flow because they're working full time, maybe 9 to 5, etc. But they want to build cash flow because they want to replace their income. What would you recommend to that type of person?
If we want to get into property, I'd probably look at cash flow, rent to rent.
Why?
Because if you want cash flow, you probably haven't got like a massive pot of savings. Because obviously cash flow, not spent, is savings, right? So you're wanting to have the cash flow so you can save to buy probably. So I would always say rent to rent or some sort of form of deal sourcing. or packaging, because I think it's your lowest barrier to entry. And with a low barrier to entry, it means, first of all, you're going to have a lot of people in there because a lot of people are going to try it.
Mm-hmm.
So your competition is probably going to be not as good, not high quality, but a lot in
There's just a
volume.
lot of noise. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of noise. And it's also one of those things that if you can learn the skill, it's also going to be transferable to when you actually start saving the money and start developing. If you guys are doing rent to rent with HMOs, like if you get a HMO, it makes no difference if you own it. You know exactly what to do,
Mm.
and you know exactly, especially on the back end.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're building something that's probably going to work so much more in your favor, because if you, for example, didn't find an investor, and I do, I'm figuring out the back end. You guys have already got the back end. Now, as soon as you fit that last piece of the puzzle, guess what? You're flying.
Yeah.
Then you overtake everyone else. So that's what I mean in terms of like who's doing well and who's doing not. It's kind of like you can't really determine it just off what they have, because everyone's loading and kind of getting ready to take off. So yeah, back to the question, rent to rent, something that doesn't cost a lot of capital, but I would always recommend people kind of getting educated before they even start. If they've got a job, or, you know, I'm a big believer in business. So if you can be a cleaner, like a commercial cleaner, and be in and around property because you're cleaning properties, that's good. Go there. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, we do property taxes. We've got a property tax accounting firm. If you have all your clients as property investors, developers, and landlords, you're in property. Yeah, you're in and around the industry, but you're feeding off it at you.
100%.
So you're capitalizing the industry. You're not really invested in too heavily, but you're in and around. So I think people sometimes miss the point. Don't focus just on how can I get into property and make money from property. Do you know what I mean? How can you be in and around property,
Yeah.
learning about property, but also capitalizing and taking a piece of the pie? Because it's such a big industry, a piece of the pie is going to be worth quite a lot. You can capitalize well.
I like that mentality because I'm into sports like boxing, football, etc. But even if you just take a footballer, let's say he plays for Man City, not Leeds or Huddersfield, but yeah, but let's say he plays for Man City. Actually, I'll say United, but they're in a different situation.
Yeah.
But one player there actually creates a number of jobs. So even if you wanted to be in football, you don't necessarily have to be the footballer. You could be someone that is actually the agent, or even someone that's the manager of that footballer, or you could even be the person that's, I don't know, a housekeeper.
Yeah.
But you're a health coach,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
personal
exactly.
trainer. There's
Yeah, yeah.
various things you can actually do around that one person because they're creating value, they're creating jobs. So the same way you're saying it in property, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to even
Yeah.
own the property.
Yeah,
You can just be
exactly.
in and around
Service
it.
provider.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like connecting the dots, like I was going back to the accountancy stuff, you get a lot of money and you can make a lot of money connecting dots. Whether you're a deal sourcer, rent to rent, a landlord can't obviously find a tenant or doesn't have a long-term tenant, you can obviously then manage or be the tenant. And I think it's kind of connecting those dots. So if someone was wanting to get started, I would always recommend getting educated. Like I get asked quite a lot, like, do you teach? But I have no interest in teaching at all, really, especially not now. And I think that's mainly because I'm learning a lot. So how can I teach someone? You know what I mean? And I also feel like it's a bit of a check that I don't have to cash in right now. You know, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, when I'm actually at the top of my game and I feel like I know enough. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll probably teach someone how to raise finance and charge a couple of grand for it. But the money's not really going to be, if you get used to making fast money, like you see, you know, from areas and things like that. If you're so used to making fast money, how are you ever going to slow down? 'Cause you get used to it, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Like I was saying to you, you can get so, you probably don't even realize when clout has become more important than the actual success. Because the day that I wake up and roll to my phone, and usually I open my emails, but I open my Instagram, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, and who are you going to blame? But sometimes you don't even know. And I'm so self-aware, and I try to be so in the moment and try and stay so grounded that I have to remind myself every day what I do it for. And I don't do it for like likes or clicks or anything like that. Like, I don't compromise myself to go viral. Going viral or not is just a brand awareness thing. It's not a Aqeel successful thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So moving forward, then, what's the plan? Like, obviously now you've got this portfolio. Let's say in a year, 5 years, what's the long-term vision? Obviously you talked about
Yeah.
10, 20 million pound portfolio, but like, what's the bigger plan?
Bigger than that. I don't know if I thought that far. So I'm a big believer in, and this is a quote I kind of live by, stop looking at the scoreboard, just keep scoring. Yeah. So I'm a person of, for example, we bought quite a lot this year. I've got about 1.2 million in development projects right now. I just bought another property last week in terms of I've had offer accepted direct to vendor. I've recently been learning about trading and real savvy methods of making money in property. So kind of being the person that Like now, for example, I've got investors that don't want 10%. They want to own the asset. But then again, I'm not a deal sourcer, but I have the team, the brokers, because we've done a lot now. Do you know what I mean? And we've got brokers, we've got solicitors, we've got accountants, whoever you may need, builders and contractors. So what I think I'm now trying to do is trying to capitalize in the systems that I'm already kind of within. So now that I'm buying buy-to-lets and BRRs, I want to start doing that for high net worth individuals, because I feel like, first of all, I'm walking the walk. Yeah. So I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. And now I'm realizing there's a gap in the market, because if someone's got £200,000, £300,000, their problem isn't 10% on their money, because sometimes it is, but they've obviously mastered the art of being able to save money, unless they've inherited it or something like that. So now they want to park their money. So now I'm going to start helping investors park money and try and service those people and do a bit of an end-to-end service. Nothing too major. I don't want to be taking out bridging loans for doctors and solicitors and accountants that are not used to that type of pressure and not having to step out of their comfort zone. Just kind of, where should we put it? Where's capital appreciation at, really, in the Northwest or in and around? Minimal refurbishment, £5,000 to £7,000 max. And then on the back end, who have we got to lay it out to? What's the supply and what's the demand in the area? And then we can kind of put a forecast together and help them and slowly start becoming a bit of an investment company with the finance background and the team that we have, full of chartered accountants, full of financial advisors, full of solicitors. It's kind of like we have I have the infrastructure to put them all together, and everyone can make money. Like, for example, I've sent 30 files to my solicitor, who's my uncle, but I don't take a cut. And I sent, X amount of files to my mortgage broker, but I don't take a cut, because if we can create a system where people are saving but still getting a good product and then meeting the needs, which is not 10% of their money, it's ownership.
Mm.
Then I think that for me, an investment company, or being like a one-stop shop for people that want to get into property or investments, I think that will be the end goal. That being said, I bought a lot this year, and I took my portfolio. We actually just hit a GDV of 3 million, which is massive, to be honest, because at the start of January last year it was 400,000. Do you know what I mean? So we've got a lot of pipeline. So I think next year is seeing the projects through, finalizing all the bits. I've got a £400,000 flip I'm just in the middle of selling, which will release £400,000 of cash, so I can then go and start the other projects. It's just we kind of wanted to, we saw it was a bit of a buyer's market, so we just wanted to buy at a good price, and we weren't bothered if we had to hold for a little bit. So next year is definitely finishing. I think I've got 2 in Manchester, 1 in Birmingham, and 1 just finished in Birmingham. So those 3 projects, finish those. I've just bought 1 last week, so we'll finish that, I'll start that, and then hopefully sell the big flip. And then I think we're just going to now look at really turning up the tempo. We've done our learning years are kind of more or less behind us now in terms of that level of work. And now it's time to either push up the ante or rinse and repeat for a year. And then now making it more accessible for high net worth individuals to kind of, do you know what I mean, to kind of be involved. I don't like the idea of necessarily just being a deal sourcer when we have so much expertise and so much in-house experience. So I think that's the big picture.
How could a high net worth individual find you then? If they were looking for Aqeel property, where would they?
Website, social media. So, Aqeelproperty.com. Plugged it. TikTok, Instagram. Yeah, they could contact me in terms of, if you go on my website, there's forms, there's videos that kind of explain what we do and how we do it. And kind of just reach out within networks. So I know there are a lot of people that are promising like 10%, 12%. And now with a lot of, I suppose, unsaid, it's not even that. It's kind of a lot of worry in the market, because there's a lot of horror stories that are coming out with people like not paying money back and having issues. And that's something that I kind of want to minimize, how much investment I'm allowed to take, because if not, you can get carried away. And before you know it, you've got one bank that you're taking loads of investment from. You've got council taxes, gases, water, electric. It's kind of like, then you've got money pumping in, right? Is that in a loss? Is that not? So my bookkeepers, my accountants, my PAs, everyone needs to be in sync. So with that being said, I can really see a gap in the market where people just need people to help them park their money in assets, which, yeah, again, you can contact me through there.
Yeah. I think it's a smart strategy, man. But yeah, I think all in all, what you've done is amazing. It's amazing to see. There's one thing that I did really want to touch on a little bit more, was the personal brand. Because obviously off the back of us meeting, since then I've seen you go hard on social media. That seems to have garnered multiple different kind of speaking engagements.
Yeah.
Obviously nominated for Property Investor Award.
Young Property Investor of the Year,
Young Property
Young
Investor of
Property
the Year.
Professional of the Year, British Asian Influencer of the Year, finalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Could have won that, man.
Yeah, I'll get you in the Asian one, yeah.
but I guess all of these are like downstream from building a personal
Yeah.
brand, right? So what has that experience been like? And for somebody building a personal brand today, what you've learned in the last year, what would you say?
Yeah, I think firstly the main thing is to kind of get out there that it's essential in the day and age that we're in. So, I've heard the kind of saying where people are like, if you walk past a shop and the shutters are down, you can't really see what's going on inside, and that's like what's happened. What it is if you don't post or you don't have social media, it's like would anyone walk past JD or Foot Locker or whatever it is, and like it was closed, you just wouldn't look in, would you? Whereas if you open the shutter and people can see what's inside, they can decide if they like it or not and decide to come in and engage with it. So I think it's essential. I also think people always have that stigma of people that do well on social media enjoy it. I really don't. But if there's one person that listens to my content is just advice and game. I don't teach. It's just my experience. There's a lot of people that will sugarcoat it, and you see someone from zero going to 1 million, and it's like you're a millionaire when it's not the case. I'm 3 million three million portfolio. It's not like there's no Lamborghinis. It's not like that. We're gonna have to push up. To be honest, I thought it'd feel better, but with that being said, I kind of document and really want to be real. And if one person learns and one person gets started and one person positively impacts, I don't know, family or really starts to make money for themselves or whatever it may be, I just really think that's why I do it, and that's why I hold myself accountable. The responsibility. So, for example, speaking at schools, how I speak at a school and how I speak to the kids is not obviously how I'd speak to the people on my social media, but it's an opportunity for someone to give them game that I never got. So I don't remember seeing anyone like me. I do have my brother-in-law who was in property and he did kind of share game and stuff like that, but he wasn't around the whole time. So with that being said, if I had someone at them ages kind of even mention go networking, make sure you're studying on YouTube. Do you know what? Instead of just driving, listening to music, put a podcast on. Like these are life hacks. These are things that people don't really teach you. So if I can now say from finance and from the same area as you, and now I'm going to Westminster in December, and there's politicians that are going to be there. It's a private meeting. Like we're going to Canary Wharf. I'm from Huddersfield. Now we're ending up in Canary Wharf. We're ending up in Mayfair. We've got an event in Mayfair next month. So it all sounds like, oh, it's really cool. But that's only because I've kind of let people know what I'm doing. I've opened the doors and said, you know what, win or lose, I'm going to let you know what's going on. And you lose 9 times out of 10. And like I was saying to you earlier, when you do win, the win's so sweet that it writes off all the losses. It makes all the losses worth it. And you only need one win or one decision or one person to give you a little bit of game. And in essence, it'll change the whole course of direction for you for the better.
So in a nutshell, it seems like personal brand isn't even about you. Even though the word personal is in it, it's actually not about you.
Yeah, exactly. And I do genuinely think that if people went on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it may be and just documented the day-to-day stuff, what they're trying to achieve, and don't overthink it. Don't try and be too cool. Just, I mean, don't get me wrong, you could dress nice or do what you want, but essentially just be real. We were speaking to Sam earlier and he was saying that essentially if you just document the journey and show people, like what's a 26-year-old from Huddersfield doing on a podcast about property? All I did was stay at work late.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? I learned the BRRR. There's no secret sauce to it.
Yeah.
And coming from where we come from, like, although there was some form of foundation from the family, like we're not from a lot at all. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, even at that point and from that level, like if I can take it here and someone had me and they were 19 and I spoke to them and had a conversation, like when people say, oh, I want to be like you, I say, no, you'll be much better. You could be much better than me because I never had anyone like me around. So that's why I try and keep my message very clear. And in an industry that is very like blurred lines, and being Asian and being responsible to the community, whether it's the younger generation or even sometimes the older generation, like I take that really personal now because you realize when things start to go well in terms of social media that people do genuinely like tune in and they want to see what's going on. So now I'm kind of actively looking for ways to really give them maximum value. Does that make sense?
For sure.
That's big, man.
It's a job.
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
amazing, man. Yeah, fantastic. Have you got any closing questions?
Do I have a closing question? I feel now like you asked me and I've said it out. I have to have one. I have a closing question.
I have one about not a question but a kind of a thing. I think with property, because obviously it's the property founder. When people are getting started in property or they have admiration to kind of be a property developer and investor, I think what I kind of realized that I was that person owning X amount of property, being in X rooms, and you've got to remember when you're in an industry that's pretty small in terms of everyone knows everyone. The social aspect is really small. If you're doing property and you're on social media, everyone knows everyone.
Of course.
With that being said, like you've really got to ride off your own back. Like I see a lot of people, a lot of good people that will ride off other people's wave and try to over network and try to be friends with everybody. But you got to remember is you didn't get into property, or I didn't, to make friends. Having like colleagues or associates or people you can rely on is key, because your network is your net worth. But essentially, there's a point where you can't compromise your own vision and your own brand because you're following someone else's vision or someone else's brand. And I feel like people need to stop. They say it out there. They say the worst thing, or you could say sometimes, the worst thing you can do is meet your role model, because you're going to realize they're just like you. And that's true. So you admire someone. People look up to me and think, oh yeah, Aqeel's got some secret. He's got like a blessing somewhere. Don't get me wrong. They are blessings, but I'm just the same as everyone else. I stayed late at work. I put in the graft. I'm really disciplined. I do 15, 16 hours every day, even until today. You know, every day for the last year, I'll have open my laptop. I'm always online. You know, people call me the 24/7 accountant at one point because I would just answer, because it's a 2-minute answer.
100%.
And people say, "Oh, Kill, you are busy," but you reply quick, and that's a form of respect. That's why I reply quick. And I think now when people are looking up and looking to get into property, like the rooms that you want to get into are not as exciting and as fun as you think. The excitement and the fun is being able to achieve what you want to achieve and look after the people that you think you want to look after. So, for example, now if I want to treat mum, treat dad, which is probably going to be due pretty soon in terms of, right now it's that time, and looking after your people and not having like financial difficulty. As long as you can maintain your honesty, your integrity, your hard work, you got your discipline, and you achieve what you want, there are rooms that you're really excited to get into, and not really all that. Like when you get there, you kind of don't want to be there.
Yeah.
You feel like a black sheep even in the industry sometimes, because you're too real for the fake. See what I mean?
You want to be very clear on your end goal, why you came in, and staying true to it. So that's a big thing.
100%. Don't compromise for anybody.
No, for real.
You gotta go hard.
Sick, man. It's been great. What do you say?
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I think that's it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man.
It's a wrap.
Pleasure having you.
Another one in the chamber.
Well, is it?
Another one out the chamber. Is it in? Who cares anyway?
Out the chamber, innit?
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I really appreciate it. So thank you both, and keep up the good work, man.
Thanks, man.